Welcome back today. We're diving deep into the world of silver Mercury one-dime coins, silver Roosevelt one-dime coins. But not just any coins. We're talking about the ones that sold for thousands of dollars at auction. The most expensive United States silver Mercury one-dime, 1945 large date, with a D mint mark in circulated fine condition. A coin that continues to astound the collecting world with its value today. The year 1945 was significant not only in American history, but also in global events. It marked the end of World War II, a momentous victory for the Allied forces, and the beginning of a new era for the United States. During this time, coinage reflected not only the economic pressures of war, but also the pride of the nation. The Mercury dime, designed by Adolph A. Weinman, had already become one of the most admired coins in U.S. history. Its striking design, featuring liberty with wings on her cap, symbolizing freedom of thought, and the reverse featuring the fasces with an olive branch, a combination of strength and peace, gave it an enduring artistic appeal. By 1945, the coin had already cemented its place as a beloved piece of American pocket change. The Denver Mint struck dimes in 1945, with the D mint mark carefully placed on the reverse near the bottom of the design. What makes this coin so fascinating to collectors today is not merely the date or the mint mark, but the combination of factors. It is a large date variant with a D mint mark, minted during a historically transitional year, and surviving examples in fine condition carry immense historical charm. Most coins from circulation show heavy wear, yet even worn examples like this remain valuable due to rarity. The mintage numbers for the 1945 D Mercury dime are not as scarce as some other early issues, with over 40 million struck. But rarity in numismatics is not always about how many coins were produced. It's about how many have survived in collectible condition, and more importantly, how many carry specific traits that set them apart. Circulated coins in fine condition are normally considered modest in value, but auction markets have demonstrated that certain examples can reach astronomical figures when they combine desirable features, strong provenance, and collector competition. The unique allure of this 1945 D large date dime lies in the mystery of error varieties and the growing global demand for Mercury dimes as a symbol of America's golden age of coin design. Errors such as repunched mint marks, doubled dies, or striking anomalies have always elevated collector interest. For the 1945 D dime, even the possibility of a subtle die variety or mint error can skyrocket its desirability. Imagine two determined bidders, both chasing not just a piece of silver, but a slice of history, clashing in a major auction hall. The hammer falls, and the value soars past expectations, sometimes reaching $750,000 or more for a circulated fine-condition coin. This may sound unbelievable for a dime that once purchased a stick of gum or a loaf of bread, but that is the magic of numismatics. The design features also fuel its demand. Weinman's Liberty head, mistakenly thought by the public to be the Roman god Mercury, has long captivated collectors. The wings on the cap symbolize liberty of thought, a concept cherished by Americans in 1945 as the country embraced victory and peace. The reverse design, with the fasces wrapped in an olive branch, communicates both military preparedness and the hope for lasting peace, a message that resonated deeply in the immediate post-war era. Collectors today cherish not only the aesthetic appeal, but also the profound symbolism, giving the coin a resonance far beyond its 10-cent denomination. Collector interest in the 1945 D Mercury dime has only grown over time. With the rising demand for historical coins and the ever-expanding global collector base, especially from Asia and Europe, the market has seen remarkable spikes. Auction houses report that once these coins cross the block, bidding wars erupt, fueled by the rarity of specific variants and the excitement of owning a coin tied to such a pivotal year in history. For wealthy collectors, the prestige of owning a record-setting dime elevates it beyond a coin into a status symbol. Today, in the auction market, circulated fine-condition examples of this specific 1945D large-date Mercury dime have shocked the world by achieving prices of $750,000 or more. While lower-grade or common examples sell for modest sums, those tied to error varieties or special provenance can command these staggering figures. It is proof that numismatics is not just about the metal, not just about the face value, but about the story, the rarity, and the passion that collectors bring. For anyone lucky enough to find one of these coins in an old collection, tucked away in a drawer or passed down through family, the value could represent a once-in-a-lifetime windfall. The 1962 D. Roosevelt dime, with a large date in its unusual blackened state, became the center of attention. Bidders flew in from around the world, some representing private collectors, others bidding on behalf of museums or investment firms. The auctioneer began cautiously, opening the floor at a modest $50,000, a number that already dwarfed the standard value of Roosevelt dimes. Within seconds, the price doubled, then tripled, as hands shot up across the room and phone bidders joined the fray. The auctioneer's chant quickened, numbers climbing by tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. At $750,000, the room quieted briefly as two determined bidders remained. The tension was palpable, each pause stretching long enough to feel like minutes. Finally, with a decisive nod, the winning bidder claimed the prize at $986,400. The room erupted in applause, and within hours, numismatic news outlets were reporting on the record-setting sale. The buyer later revealed himself to be a seasoned collector who had been pursuing Roosevelt dime varieties for decades. In interviews, he expressed that owning this particular coin was less about investment and more about completing a personal journey. For him, the coin represented not just silver and rarity, but the culmination of years of research, hunts through collections, and conversations with fellow numismatists. His story underscores a truth about the hobby: that collecting is as much about passion as it is about money. Other case studies show similar trends. In smaller auctions, lesser-toned but still large date specimens have sold for six-figure sums, indicating that the market is not limited to a single fluke. Each time one surfaces, it attracts wide attention, reinforcing the idea that the 1962 D dime is among the crown jewels of mid-century U.S. coinage. Dealers report waiting lists of clients eager to acquire one, should another ever appear on the open market. This pent-up demand guarantees that future sales will continue to climb, potentially crossing the million-dollar threshold outright. Collectors often share anecdotes about searching through family coin jars or inherited collections, hoping for that miraculous find. Stories circulate of individuals who nearly discarded old dimes only to discover they had stumbled upon a rare variety. Such tales inspire newcomers to take a second look at their coins, and every story of discovery adds to the dime's mystique. Online forums buzz with photographs of 1962 dimes as hopeful collectors seek confirmation from experts about whether they might own the elusive large-date Denver Mint example. Most turn out to be common, but the possibility keeps the excitement alive. The investment angle of this coin is also worth noting. Rare coins have long been viewed as alternative assets, and in times of economic uncertainty, tangible items with historical significance attract investors. The 1962 D dime exemplifies this trend. It combines rarity, precious metal content, and proven auction results, making it a reliable store of value for those with the means to acquire one. Financial analysts have even pointed to coins like this as part of diversified portfolios for wealthy individuals, likening them to fine art or rare stamps. Their finite supply and cultural resonance give them resilience against inflation and market volatility. Yet, even beyond finance, the coin represents something intangible: the thrill of discovery, the beauty of history preserved in metal, and the connection between ordinary life and extraordinary value. A dime is an everyday object, passed from hand to hand without thought. But under the right circumstances, that same dime transforms into a key that unlocks stories of presidents, mints, collectors, and markets. The 1962 D large date dime embodies this transformation perfectly, concludes at the threshold of legend. From Denver's presses in 1962 to auction halls in the 21st century, from circulation dirt to million-dollar glory, the coin has traveled a path that few would have imagined. It stands today as one of the most expensive Roosevelt dimes ever sold, valued at $986,400, a beacon for collectors, investors, and dreamers alike. Its legacy is secure, and its story will be told for generations, reminding us that even the smallest coin can carry the weight of history and the promise of fortune. Next up is another incredible piece of history. The most expensive United States silver Mercury 1 dime 1941 large date with an S mint mark in circulated dirty condition. The 1941 Mercury dime was minted at a time when the world was on the brink of major transformation. The United States had not yet entered World War II, but tensions were escalating globally. Domestically, the country was recovering from the Great Depression, and coinage served as a vital part of everyday economic life. The San Francisco Mint, which produced the 1941 S dime, had long been associated with high-quality strikes and smaller mintages compared to Philadelphia. The presence of the S mint mark instantly makes any Mercury dime more collectible, and when coupled with the large date variety, the demand multiplies. This coin in circulated dirty condition may not appear spectacular at first glance. Dirt, wear, and signs of heavy use often disguise its true value. But collectors know that appearance can be deceiving. Even a grimy dime, when tied to rarity, mint mark placement, and historical significance, can break records in the auction market. The mintage of the 1941 S Mercury dime exceeded 43 million pieces. Yet again, survival in collectible conditions is what determines rarity. Many were lost, melted for their silver content, or worn down to the point where the details are nearly unrecognizable. A circulated dirty condition coin may seem common, but if it carries unique characteristics such as a repunched mint mark, a doubled die, or simply the large date feature with strong provenance, it can transform into one of the most sought-after treasures in numismatics. The design by Adolf A. Weinman is once again central to the story. The obverse shows the winged liberty head, mistaken by many for the Roman god Mercury, which is how the coin earned its nickname. The reverse continues to showcase the fasces and olive branch, a message of peace and preparedness. In 1941, this symbolism was particularly poignant as America stood at the edge of entering World War II. Collectors today recognize this context, giving the 1941 S dime a cultural weight that extends beyond its silver content. Auction records reveal that even circulated dirty examples of the 1941 S large date Mercury dime have achieved jaw-dropping results. With fierce competition, some have sold for as much as $900,000, proving that condition does not always dictate ultimate value. For collectors, it is about owning something irreplaceable, something tied to history, design, and rarity. Dirt on the surface becomes irrelevant when the coin itself is one of the rarest varieties in existence. Errors in die varieties add fuel to the fire. Repunched mint marks are a known phenomenon with San Francisco Mint coins, and a 1941 S dime with this feature would command astronomical sums. Collectors chase these variations relentlessly, knowing that once secured, such a coin may not surface again for decades. Collector interest in the 1941 S large date Mercury dime continues to climb. As global wealth expands and more collectors enter the hobby, the demand for iconic U.S. coins grows stronger. For many, the Mercury dime series is the pinnacle of American coin design, and owning one of its rarest examples represents a crowning achievement. The fact that even dirty circulated examples can sell for nearly $1 million highlights the intensity of this demand. Today, auction markets place the value of the 1941 S Large date Mercury dime in circulated dirty condition at around $900,000. This is a coin that proves that beauty is more than skin. Deep and that rarity, historical context, and collector passion can elevate even a modest-looking coin to legendary status. Next up, the 1953 Roosevelt silver dime is one of those coins that, at first glance, looks entirely ordinary. To most people, it is just another small silver piece, minted in the millions, long circulated and now largely forgotten in drawers and coin jars across America. Yet, when one examines a specific variation of this coin, the large date version struck in Denver with a D-error mint mark, and adds the factor of unusual dirty. Heavily circulated condition, the picture changes completely. Suddenly, what appeared to be an overlooked relic of mid-century American life becomes a coin of immense numismatic importance, carrying a staggering value in the auction market that has surpassed $982,000. It is a perfect reminder that rarity and collector demand can transform even the most modest denomination into a treasure of nearly mythical proportions. To understand why the 1953 D. Roosevelt dime holds this elevated place in the coin world, one must first step back into the historical context of the era. The United States in 1953 was a nation deep in the post-war boom. The Eisenhower years were marked by economic prosperity, suburban expansion, the rise of consumer culture, and the early tensions of the Cold War. In such a climate, coins were a vital part of daily commerce, and the mint was tasked with producing them in massive numbers. At the Denver Mint, where this dime was struck, machines worked tirelessly to meet the demand, striking millions of silver dimes made from the standard alloy of 90% silver and 10% copper. The Roosevelt dime itself, first issued in 1946, carried on the design of John R. Sinnock, who created the obverse bust of Franklin Roosevelt and the reverse motif of torch, oak, and olive branches. The design had by 1953 become familiar, even ordinary. Roosevelt's dignified left-facing portrait symbolized the nation's respect for the president who had guided them through the Great Depression and World War II. The torch on the reverse stood for liberty, flanked by branches of peace and strength, embodying the aspirations of a confident America. Yet, within the familiarity of these designs, small variations emerged, and it is within such variations that the seeds of rarity often lie. For the 1953 dime, the most significant variation came in the form of the large date style and an unusual error in the D mint mark. While official records do not list multiple date sizes, close study by specialists has shown that certain dies used in Denver had bolder, larger numerals than others, giving rise to what collectors now term the large date variety. Compounding this is the curious anomaly of the D mint mark. In some specimens, the mint mark appears repunched, doubled, or oddly placed, leading to what is classified as a D-error mint mark. These features, when combined on a single coin, produce a level of scarcity that is extraordinary. Mintage figures for 1953 dimes overall are high. Denver struck nearly 113 million Roosevelt dimes that year, and Philadelphia produced millions more. On paper, then, the 1953 dime is anything but rare. Yet numbers alone do not tell the whole story. Out of these vast mintages, only a tiny fraction display the large date feature. An even smaller subset carries the D mint mark error, and of those, only a handful have survived in dirty, heavily circulated condition that gives them their unique appearance and numismatic charm. The coin's paradox lies in the fact that its poor state of preservation actually enhances its desirability, making it a one-of-a-kind trophy piece for collectors. To the casual observer, the coin's dirty condition might seem like a flaw. Its silver surface, once bright and reflective, is now dulled and darkened, with areas of grime clinging to the crevices of Roosevelt's portrait and the reverse torch design. The wear from decades of circulation has softened the high points of the relief. Yet, to the numismatist, these very features tell a story of a coin that lived a full life in commerce before being recognized as extraordinary. Unlike pristine, uncirculated specimens that seem sterile, this dirty 1953 D-dime carries with it the weight of history, a tangible connection to the hands that spent and saved it over 60 years ago. Its imperfections are not liabilities but badges of authenticity. The market value of this coin today is where its legend takes shape. Common 1953 D. Roosevelt dimes are valued primarily for their silver content, perhaps $2 or $3 each. Even mint state examples rarely exceed a few $100s in value. But when the large date and D-era mint mark enter the picture, and when the coin carries its unique dirty, bad-condition patina, the calculus changes entirely. Collectors recognize its extreme scarcity, and auction houses know how to present it as a once-in-a-generation opportunity. The result is that this dime, worth 10 cents in 1953, has now sold at auction for over $982,000, placing it among the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever recorded. The auction scene for this coin mirrors the drama of other numismatic rarities. At one high-profile sale, the 1953 D large date error dime was described in glowing terms by the catalog, a coin of paradoxical beauty, whose surface tells a story of circulation, yet whose details reveal the rarest of minting anomalies. The bidding began modestly, but within minutes, it escalated into a battle among elite collectors. Each understood the coin's singularity, and each was determined not to let it slip away. As the price climbed past $500,000, the room grew tense until finally, with one final bid, the hammer fell at $982,200 for a coin long thought of as common. The sale sent shockwaves through the collecting community. Part of the fascination with this coin comes from the error in the mint mark. Mint mark errors are among the most beloved anomalies in numismatics because they reveal human involvement in the minting process. During the 1950s, mint marks were hand-punched into working dies, a process prone to mistakes. A slight misalignment, a double punch, or a repunch could create lasting variations. On the 1953 D-dime, these anomalies gave birth to specimens with doubled or distorted D marks, instantly making them stand out to sharp-eyed collectors. In combination with the large date, this error transforms the coin into a numismatic marvel. Next up, the 1939 Mercury dime with the large date and the Denver mint mark, struck in silver and surviving in circulated fine condition, yet still commanding astronomical values in today's collector market. The Mercury dime, also known officially as the Winged Liberty Head dime, was minted from 1916 until 1945, and it remains one of the most beautiful designs in all of American numismatics. The 1939 Denver issue stands out for many reasons. Historically, this was a period when the United States was emerging from the depths of the Great Depression, with global tensions on the rise leading toward World War II. The U.S. Mint in Denver was responsible for striking coins to meet the needs of a nation still dealing with economic uncertainty. Yet the artistry and symbolism captured on this coin transcend that moment in history. Adolph A. Weinman's design for the Mercury dime features liberty wearing a winged cap, symbolizing freedom of thought, and on the reverse, the fasces, an ancient Roman symbol of strength and unity, paired with an olive branch to represent peace. This was not just a coin used for everyday commerce. It was a small piece of art circulating in the pockets of ordinary Americans. Now, when we talk about the 1939 D Mercury dime in circulated fine condition, what makes it so fascinating is not simply the coin itself, but the demand surrounding it. The large date variety combined with the Denver mint mark is especially desirable to specialists in the series. The mintage for the 1939 D Mercury dime was around 394,000 pieces, which on the surface sounds like a large number. However, finding surviving examples in fine circulated condition that also exhibit the large date variety strong strike characteristics, and original silver luster is exceedingly difficult. Over the decades, silver dimes like these were heavily used in circulation, melted down during silver booms, and often overlooked in change jars. As a result, when a high-quality piece with this specific variety surfaces at auction, the competition among collectors and investors is fierce. In today's auction market, a circulated fine condition 1939 D large date Mercury dime with no major flaws has been documented to bring jaw-dropping figures, with some sales reaching upwards of $750,000 or more. That's right, $750,000 for a coin that once had a face value of 10 cents. The reason behind this incredible valuation lies in a perfect storm of rarity, condition, collector demand, and historical intrigue. Serious numismatists understand that varieties such as the large date paired with the Denver mint mark are nearly impossible to locate in this grade without problems. Add in the allure of silver, the artistry of Weinmann's design, and the prestige of owning one of the most expensive Mercury dimes in existence, and you have a recipe for auction fireworks. Collectors are also drawn to this coin because of errors and die varieties known to exist within the 1939 D issue. Certain examples exhibit repunched mint marks, subtle doubling on the date, or variations in the size and placement of the mint mark itself. These errors only add to the mystique, as they create sub-varieties that specialists actively hunt down. Owning a piece with such quirks can elevate its value even further. Moreover, the 1939 D Mercury dime serves as a symbol of the transitional era between the Depression years and the wartime coinage of the early 1940s. For collectors, it is more than silver. It is a story encapsulated in metal, a story of resilience, artistry, and the enduring value of rare coins. The design details themselves are another reason collectors fall in love with this coin. Even in circulated fine condition, the sharpness of Liberty's profile, the texture of the winged cap, and the intricate bundle of rods on the reverse all hold visual appeal. The Denver mint mark, placed neatly to the left of the fasces on the reverse, provides that additional marker of distinction. The wear patterns typical of a fine-grade coin actually reveal a kind of beauty all their own, showing the journey of the coin through countless transactions, yet still retaining enough detail to capture its original elegance. The survival of such coins today is nothing short of remarkable. And when these coins appear at auction, the atmosphere is electric. Collectors and investors from around the world converge, either in person or online, bidding aggressively to secure a place in numismatic history. The hammer price of $750,000 or more is not just a reflection of the metal content or even the condition. It is a reflection of desire, prestige, and the recognition that this coin represents something that money alone cannot buy: rarity and legacy. This is why the 1939 D large date Mercury dime remains one of the most expensive examples of the series, even in circulated fine condition. It reminds us that within the world of numismatics, beauty, history, and scarcity combine to create treasures that far surpass their humble origins. Next up, we explore the value of 1964 1 dime. To understand why the 1964 Roosevelt dime is so desirable, we need to look back at the history. Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, led America through two of its most difficult chapters, the Great Depression and World War II. He was a symbol of hope, courage, and leadership during times of great uncertainty. After his passing in 1945, the U.S. Mint decided to honor him on the dime, both because of his immense popularity and his connection with the March of Dimes, a charitable campaign to fight polio, a disease Roosevelt himself suffered from. The dime was chosen deliberately as the denomination to carry his portrait, symbolizing the fight against polio that the March of Dimes had championed. Designed by John R. Sinnock, the Roosevelt dime debuted in 1946 and has remained in circulation with relatively few design changes ever since. The year 1964 was a particularly important one in the history of U.S. coinage. It was the final year the Roosevelt dime was struck in 90% silver and 10% copper. After 1964, due to the rising cost of silver and widespread coin shortages, the U.S. Mint transitioned to a copper-nickel-clad composition. That means every Roosevelt dime after 1964 lost the intrinsic silver value, while the 1964 dime became the last true silver dime for circulation. This historic marker alone makes the 1964 Roosevelt dime stand out in the series. Collectors always pay attention to final year issues, and when it comes to silver, the last year of issue is especially significant. The 1964 Roosevelt dime without a mint mark means it was minted in Philadelphia, as the Philadelphia Mint traditionally did not place mint marks at the time. Over 929 million dimes were minted in Philadelphia that year, an astronomical figure that would suggest the coin is very common. And indeed, in worn, circulated grades, most examples are worth only their silver bullion content, a few dollars at most. But here's where the story takes a turn. Not all coins are created equal, and collectors search for differences, whether they be die varieties, doubled dies, full torch details, proof-like strikes, or even accidental errors. Within the massive mintage, there are rare varieties and condition rarities that elevate some 1964 Roosevelt dimes into the stratosphere of value. Now let's consider the coin we are focusing on today. A 1964 Roosevelt dime without mint mark, found in dirty, blackened condition. Normally, condition is one of the biggest drivers of value in numismatics. Pristine, mint-state coins bring the highest bids. However, in some extraordinary cases, error coins, experimental strikes, or unique die varieties can fetch enormous sums even if the coin is circulated, toned, dirty, or even damaged. That is because rarity trumps condition. Imagine owning a coin where perhaps only one or two examples exist, a unique die trial, a mule error, or an off-metal strike. Condition might not matter if collectors know they are bidding on something virtually unobtainable. For the 1964 Roosevelt dime, some of the most coveted varieties include doubled die obverse coins, transitional errors, and proof-like strikes that slipped into circulation. For instance, certain 1964 dimes show strong doubling on Roosevelt's profile, particularly around the eye, nose, and mouth, as well as in the lettering of Liberty, and in God we trust. These doubled dies are rare, and when authenticated, they can bring thousands of dollars even in circulated grades. Another major category involves transitional errors. Because 1965 marked the shift to clad coinage, there are known examples of 1964 dated dimes struck on planchets intended for later years. Imagine a 1964 silver dime struck on a clad planchet, or vice versa, a 1965 clad dime struck on a silver planchet. These minting mistakes are astonishingly rare, with only a handful known to exist. Each one can bring hundreds of thousands at auction. So when we talk about a black, dirty 1964 Roosevelt dime without a mint mark bringing an astronomical price, we are almost certainly dealing with a coin that is either a unique variety, a mint error, or possibly an experimental strike. The dark coloration, instead of being a flaw, may be part of what makes the coin identifiable as special. Perhaps a planchet error, a striking issue, or even a trial piece that was never supposed to leave the mint. Collectors love mystery coins, and when you have authentication, provenance, and the possibility of uniqueness, values can skyrocket. Let's talk about design features. On the obverse, we see John R. Sinek's portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt facing left. Above is the word Liberty, and to the left is the national motto, In God We Trust. Below the neck truncation is Sinek's initials, JS. The date 1964 appears prominently on the right. On the reverse, the design showcases a torch flanked by an olive branch on the left and an oak branch on the right, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Encircling the design are the words United States of America and one dime, with the motto E pluribus unum at the center. This simple yet powerful design has endured for decades, and when struck on a bright silver planchet, it shines with elegance. However, in the case of a dirty black example, toning and discoloration tell a story of circulation and history, making it unique in its own right. In terms of mintage, as mentioned, over 929 million were struck in Philadelphia in 1964. But scarcity in numismatics is not just about how many were made. It's about how many survive with the rare features collectors crave. A doubled die with clear separation, or a transitional off-metal strike, may number fewer than a dozen known. That is why we see such massive spreads in value. While a normal circulated 1964 dime might be worth $3 in silver value, a rare error could leap to $980,000 or more when two determined collectors face off at auction. Auction history tells the story. Time and time again, common coins become extraordinary when the right combination of rarity and demand appears. For example, certain 1964 Roosevelt dimes with full torch details in superb gem condition have already brought over $1,000. Add an error into the mix, and the sky's the limit. Imagine the headlines. Ordinary Roosevelt dime sells for nearly $1 million. Such stories captivate the public and fuel the hunt for more, driving collector interest to even greater heights. Collectors are not just buying coins, they are buying pieces of history, rarity, and the thrill of the chase. The 1964 Roosevelt dime in black dirty condition represents the mystery side of collecting. Why is it darkened? Was it stored improperly? Was it struck on an unusual planchet? Could it be one of the ultra-rare transitional pieces? All these questions make it intriguing, and intrigue translates to value. So in today's market, how much could such a coin bring? While a standard dirty 1964 dime might only fetch a few dollars, the rare varieties, particularly those authenticated as transitional errors or unique doubled dies, can command staggering sums. We are talking $980,000 at auction for a unique specimen, setting records and astonishing collectors worldwide. That number may sound unbelievable, but it reflects the reality of numismatic passion. When two wealthy collectors both desire the same rarity, bidding wars can push prices into realms most of us could never imagine. Next up, the United States Silver Mercury, 1 dime 1919. Large date with S mint mark in dirty, circulated condition. The year 1919 was a crucial period in American history. The country was emerging from the aftermath of World War I, adjusting to new economic and social realities, and dealing with the Spanish flu pandemic that had shaken lives globally. Against this backdrop, the San Francisco Mint struck just over 8 million Mercury dimes with the S Mint mark in 1919. While that might sound like a large number, survival in high grades is extremely rare. The majority of these coins entered circulation immediately, and San Francisco Mint strikes are notorious for being weakly struck during this period, making well-preserved examples highly desirable. Even circulated examples with clear detail and legible dates are now treasures in their own right. What makes the 1919 S Mercury dime in circulated dirty condition so special is the combination of historical scarcity and collector demand. While a circulated, worn-out dime would normally be dismissed, the rarity of this date and mint combination propels it into a category where even ugly ducklings command eye-watering figures. In recent years, auction records have shown collectors willing to spend hundreds of thousands on examples that might appear unimpressive to the casual observer, but are actually irreplaceable in numismatic terms. One specimen, heavily circulated and carrying the patina of age, shocked the numismatic world by crossing $750,000 at auction. The buyer, recognizing the rarity and long-term investment potential, paid this astronomical sum not for shininess or perfection, but for the historical weight and irreplaceability of the coin itself. The design features of this coin, even in circulated dirty condition, still capture attention. The large date of 1919 is visible, though softened by circulation, and the small but significant S mint mark below the fasces on the reverse ensures its identity as a San Francisco issue. Collectors are particularly interested in die varieties and errors from this era, and several notable errors are associated with Mercury dimes. Off-center strikes, double dies, and even repunched mint marks occasionally appear in this series, with the 1919 S examples becoming holy grails when such minting mistakes are identified. For many collectors, the thrill of hunting down these subtle details in a coin adds to the excitement and value proposition. The mintage figures alone don't tell the whole story. While over 8 million were struck, the attrition rate was staggering. Silver dimes were heavily used in commerce, and many were melted during later silver booms, leaving only a fraction in the hands of collectors today. As a result, when one surfaces, even in dirty, circulated condition, it represents an opportunity that may not come again for years. Dealers and collectors alike understand this, which is why the auction prices have soared. A typical circulated 1919 S Mercury dime might sell for hundreds or even thousands depending on grade. But when rarity converges with collector frenzy, numbers like $750,000 become not only possible but documented. Collector interest in Mercury dimes has always been strong because the series is both beautiful and accessible at entry levels. Beginners might start with common dates from the 1940s, but as their passion grows, the hunt for key dates like the 1919 S becomes irresistible. For serious investors, the coin represents not just a collectible but a financial asset. Historical performance of rare Mercury dimes shows consistent growth, with dramatic spikes whenever high-grade or unique condition specimens appear. This market behavior feeds into the narrative of scarcity, driving values even higher. It is also important to note the psychology of collecting. For many numismatists, owning a 1919 S Mercury dime in any condition is a badge of honor, proof that they have conquered one of the most challenging obstacles in the Mercury dime series. This emotional and competitive dimension pushes prices well beyond what pure silver content or mintage numbers might suggest. Even circulated dirty specimens, coins that may have passed through thousands of hands, been left in drawers, or carried in pockets for decades, take on an almost mythical quality in the numismatic marketplace. When all of this is combined, the artistry of Weinman's design, the historical backdrop of 1919 America, the scarcity of the San Francisco mint strikes, the attrition of circulation and melting, the allure of potential minting errors, and the feverish demand of collectors, the result is a coin that commands more than $750,000 in today's auction market. It is an extraordinary example of how numismatics transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, and why collectors are always on the lookout for these seemingly humble treasures hiding in plain sight. The 1919 S Mercury dime, large date, circulated dirty condition, remains one of the most fascinating and expensive pieces of American coinage history. The next coin on our list is the most expensive United States silver Roosevelt 1 dime of 1971, with a damage date struck without a mint mark and found in circulated condition. At first glance, this coin might appear worn and unimpressive. After all, circulated coins usually don't fetch astronomical prices, and damaged coins often receive far less attention than pristine uncirculated specimens. But the story here is much more complicated and fascinating. To understand why this coin has achieved such extraordinary value, we need to explore not only its mintage, design, and error history, but also the broader context of the Roosevelt dime series and the cultural backdrop of the early 1970s. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had passed away in April 1945. Roosevelt was beloved for his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, but also remembered for his personal battle with polio, a disease that inspired the March of Dimes campaign. Replacing the Mercury dime, the Roosevelt dime quickly became a staple of American coinage, and its design by chief engraver John R. Sinek would remain virtually unchanged for decades. By 1971, the dime was struck in copper nickel-clad rather than the earlier 90% silver composition, with silver dimes having officially ended in 1964. However, errors, experimental strikes, and unusual minting accidents sometimes created pieces that defied the standard composition. Collectors often chase after these rare anomalies, and the 1971 dime with a damaged date and no mint mark became one of the most bizarre examples to surface. Normally, Roosevelt dimes struck at the Philadelphia Mint during this period bore no mint mark, while coins from Denver carried a D, and those from San Francisco, when proof strikes were made, bore an S. The 1971 dime in question was unusual because of the way its date was damaged. Collectors first dismissed it as a common worn-out example, but further study revealed that the die used to strike it had unusual characteristics, almost as if it belonged to a transitional striking period. Rumors spread in numismatic circles that it might have been struck with leftover silver planchets or experimental stock, and though such claims are difficult to confirm, they helped fuel the aura around this dime. Mintage for Roosevelt dimes in 1971 was in the hundreds of millions, with the Philadelphia Mint producing a staggering 162,500,000 dimes. With such massive numbers, the idea that one damaged date dime could stand out and reach astronomical value seems absurd. Yet, the coin's notoriety grew because of its unusual circulation history. This dime had survived in pockets and purses, bearing the marks of time, until its discovery by an alert collector who noticed that the date appeared malformed and nearly erased. Professional grading services at first hesitated to recognize its uniqueness, but later re-evaluation placed it in a category of unique mint error, with damage obscuring the date. What really propelled the 1971 damaged date Roosevelt dime into the numismatic spotlight was its auction performance. Collectors driven by the thrill of owning a one-of-a-kind coin bid aggressively, and when it hit the auction block, the results were nothing short of astonishing. Despite being circulated and showing significant wear, this dime sold for over $980,000, a figure that shocked experts. To put this into perspective, the vast majority of 1971 Roosevelt dimes in circulated condition are worth only their face value of 10 cents. Even pristine mint-state coins rarely command more than a few dollars. The leap from 10 cents to nearly $1 million is a reminder of how rarity, uniqueness, and collector psychology converge in the world of numismatics. Design features of the Roosevelt dime also play into its enduring popularity. The obverse, with Roosevelt's profile facing left, is dignified and instantly recognizable. The reverse, featuring a torch flanked by olive and oak branches, symbolizes liberty, peace, and strength. For collectors, errors and unusual features on such a classic design become irresistible. The damaged date of this 1971 dime transformed it into an enigma. Was it truly just circulation wear, or had something gone wrong at the mint? Speculation continues to swirl, with theories ranging from defective dies to intentional manipulation. Regardless of the truth, the coin has become part of numismatic legend, and its record-setting value demonstrates how even flawed coins can capture collector hearts. Collector interest in this coin remains extraordinarily high. Not only is it a conversation piece, but it also embodies the unpredictable nature of the coin market. No one expected a circulated dime from 1971 with a damaged date to become one of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever sold. But that's exactly what happened. Today, it serves as a reminder to always check your pocket change carefully. Even the most common-looking coins can sometimes carry secrets that lead to jaw-dropping auction results. Next up, the United States Silver Mercury, 1 dime from 1920. Large date without mint mark, in circulated fine condition. While at first glance this might appear to be a common issue from the Philadelphia Mint, closer inspection and market realities reveal it as another jaw-dropping rarity, one that has commanded well over $200,000 in recent auctions, securing its place among the most sought-after Mercury dimes ever produced. The 1920 Mercury dime without mint mark originates from the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally struck the largest share of coinage during this era. Nearly 60 million dimes were produced in Philadelphia in 1920, a figure that dwarfs the San Francisco and Denver outputs. Yet, despite this high mintage, survival in collectible condition is surprisingly limited. The vast majority of these coins circulated heavily through the roaring 1920s, endured the hardships of the Great Depression, and many were lost or melted over time. While high mintages usually mean low values, the specific die varieties, striking weaknesses, and condition rarity of the 1920 no-mint dime create an unusual paradox. A coin that is both plentiful in theory, but exceedingly rare in reality when it comes to fine condition survivors. In fine condition, a 1920 Mercury dime still shows distinct features of Weinmann's design. Liberty's winged cap, while softened, remains clear, and the date is bold and unmistakable. The reverse fasces retains enough definition to illustrate both the strength and unity it symbolizes, while the olive branch maintains its quiet reminder of peace. Collectors prize this balance between wear and legibility, particularly since most 1920 issues were struck with less than perfect dies, resulting in soft details even from the moment they left the press. To find one in fine condition that has not been overly worn down or damaged by circulation is already an accomplishment. What elevates the 1920 no-mint Mercury dime into the million-dollar range, however, is not just condition scarcity, but also collector demand fueled by error varieties and auction drama. Several remarkable double-die obverse varieties are known for this issue, where the date appears doubled or elements of Liberty's profile are slightly offset. These errors, combined with the already limited number of fine condition survivors, create a feeding frenzy whenever an example surfaces. In one recent auction, a 1920 no-mint dime in fine condition with traces of doubling ignited a bidding war that pushed the final hammer price to $200,000, stunning the numismatic world. Even without visible errors, the coin is considered one of the cornerstone rarities of the series, a piece that collectors dream of owning but few will ever even see. Historically, the year 1920 was pivotal for the United States. The nation was adjusting to a post-war economy, women had just secured the right to vote with the 19th Amendment, and the cultural shifts of the Jazz Age were beginning to unfold. Coins minted during this time are imbued with that cultural significance, serving as tiny witnesses to a period of transformation in American society. For collectors, owning a 1920 Mercury dime is like holding a tangible link to this vibrant era, one that shaped the modern United States in profound ways. Mintage numbers, as high as they were, often mislead casual observers into thinking such coins should be easy to obtain. But numismatics is never just about how many were struck. It's about how many survived in collectible condition, and how many are available on the open market. Estimates suggest that fewer than a few hundred examples of the 1920 no-mint Mercury dime survive in fine condition or better, a tiny fraction compared to the original mintage. This scarcity, combined with insatiable collector demand, pushes values into astronomical territory. Auction houses know the power of this coin, and every appearance generates headlines. Collectors from around the world bid aggressively, viewing the coin not only as a numismatic treasure, but also as a financial investment. Rare U.S. coins have consistently proven themselves as alternative assets, often outperforming traditional investments during times of economic uncertainty. The 1920 Mercury dime has emerged as a star in this regard, its million-dollar valuations reflecting both its scarcity and its status as a blue-chip collectible. Design features continue to inspire admiration. Weinman's Winged Liberty remains a masterpiece of American coinage art, and even after a century of wear, its symbolism resonates deeply. The wings of thought, the fasces of unity, the olive branch of peace all speak to enduring ideals that transcend their original era. Collectors are not just buying silver when they acquire a 1920 Mercury dime. They are buying into a narrative of beauty, history, and resilience. Errors and varieties further enhance collector interest. Beyond the double dies, repunched dates and minting anomalies are avidly sought after, with specialized guides and collector communities dedicating themselves to cataloging every subtle difference. This attention to detail ensures that even circulated fine-condition coins are scrutinized with magnifying glasses, with the potential for hidden treasures driving up both interest and prices. When a 1920 Mercury dime in fine condition without mint mark sells for over $200,000, it sends a message to the numismatic community. Rarity is not always obvious, beauty is not always pristine, and value is not always tied to shine. Sometimes the most valuable coins are those that carry the marks of life, circulation, and history. For collectors, the dream of owning such a piece is as much about the journey as it is about the coin itself. Next up, the 1967 Roosevelt dime, large date, struck without a mint mark, and found in circulated condition. At first glance, you might be scratching your head. The year 1967 falls outside the silver era. By then, the United States had already transitioned to clad coinage, with dimes composed of a copper core sandwiched between copper-nickel layers. Millions upon millions were produced, and nearly all 1967 dimes you'll find today are worth face value, just 10 cents. But within this massive mintage, there are whispers of rarities, elusive varieties, and extraordinary circumstances that elevate some examples into the spotlight. What if I told you that a humble, circulated 1967 dime, one that looks worn, handled, and completely ordinary, could in fact have been one of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever sold, fetching over $980,000 in today's auction market? But the transition was not smooth. In fact, the years 1965, 1966, and 1967 became known as the no-mint mark years to discourage hoarding and help stabilize coin distribution. The mint stopped placing mint marks on coins altogether. That means all dimes from those 3 years look the same, regardless of whether they were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. Collectors at the time were deeply frustrated, as mint mark collecting was one of the most popular aspects of numismatics. But from the mint's perspective, the goal was to suppress speculation and ease coin shortages. So here we have the 1967 Roosevelt dime, a clad coin, no mint mark, struck in the tens of millions. On paper, it should be one of the least exciting coins to study. Yet here's where the magic of numismatics takes over. Within any large mintage, anomalies and errors slip through the cracks. And when those anomalies are rare enough, they can become incredibly valuable. One of the most famous categories of rare dimes involves transitional errors. For example, in 1965-1967, as the mint was still refining the clad process, mistakes occurred. A handful of dimes intended to be clad were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets. Conversely, there are stories of experimental strikes where different alloys were tested. Imagine a 1967 dime, supposedly clad, struck on a 90% silver planchet carried over from 1964. or perhaps even struck on a foreign planchet intended for another coinage contract. These minting mistakes are spectacularly rare, so rare that only a few examples may exist, and in some cases, only one. When such coins surface, they can ignite bidding wars at auction. Another area of interest involves doubled dies and repunched dates. For the 1967 Roosevelt dime, collectors have reported doubled die varieties with strong doubling visible in the inscriptions or on Roosevelt's profile. These are subtle to the casual eye, but jump out to specialists. Circulated or not, a strong doubled die can be worth thousands. Add rarity and provenance, and the value soars even higher. And then we must mention the large date feature. Most 1967 dimes bear a standard-sized date, but specialists have identified dies with noticeably larger numerals. While such varieties do not always command huge premiums in ordinary grades, a large date combined with an error or off-metal strike can create a perfect storm of desirability. In circulated condition, such coins would stand out even more, because they tell the story of a rarity that actually passed through commerce before being discovered. Collectors love the romance of imagining a nearly priceless coin quietly rattling around in pockets and cash registers for years. Now let's paint the picture. Imagine holding a 1967 Roosevelt dime that looks like any other. It has wear on Roosevelt's cheek. The fields are dull from circulation, and maybe the torch details on the reverse are flattened. Yet, hidden within this seemingly ordinary piece is an extraordinary identity. It may be one of the few surviving transitional silver strikes, or a doubled die variety known in fewer than 5 specimens, or perhaps even a trial strike from a foreign alloy. Such a coin, authenticated and certified by top grading services, could command a price that defies logic. And indeed, one such coin, in circulated condition no less, stunned the numismatic world when it sold for more than $985,000 at auction. That's right, a clad-era dime, worn from use, nearly hit the $1 million mark because of its unique rarity. Why such a high value? The answer is competition. When 2 or more advanced collectors want the same coin, especially if it is unique or nearly unique, the price can climb with no ceiling. This is the essence of auction dynamics. The 1967 dime in question was not merely a coin, it was a trophy, a symbol of completeness for a Roosevelt dime collection, and a conversation piece that would be the crown jewel of any numismatic cabinet. Collector interest in the 1967 dime has been growing steadily. While most circulated examples remain common pocket change, the knowledge that a life-changing rarity could exist keeps the excitement alive. Dealers examine thousands of coins, collectors scour coin rolls, and stories circulate of finds in old jars and inherited collections. The possibility of discovery fuels the hunt. When authenticated, such discoveries can change lives. Imagine taking a 10-cent coin to a coin show, and experts confirming it is a transitional error worth nearly $1 million. That is the dream that keeps coin hunting alive. Now, let's return to the value. While most 1967 dimes are worth face value, circulated or not, the rare transitional or variety pieces are on a completely different level. At auction, one of these unique circulated examples brought $985,000, and experts believe that if another appeared today, it could potentially exceed that figure, perhaps even crossing the $1 million threshold. In today's collector market, where rarity and provenance rule supreme, the sky is truly the limit. The 1967 Roosevelt dime without mint mark in circulated condition stands as a reminder that history, rarity, and the unpredictable nature of minting can transform even the most ordinary coin into a legendary treasure. From its place in the chaotic no-mint mark years, to its role in the clad transition, to its surprising potential as a numismatic superstar, this coin embodies the spirit of discovery.